Hello, everyone. We are going to start with the second lecture of our webinar series, right? And in today's session, we are going to discuss how to tackle the section B question, right? Section B is of 25 marks, 20 technical marks, 5 professional marks, so it's easier one, right, compared with section A. So my advice to all the students is to, if you really are struggling with APM, if you want to be relaxed, just try to go to section B and try to start a question from section B because it's an easier one, right? It includes one or two maximum topics in one question, right? So let's see what we can do here, right? This question, why I chose this question, because this question is, requirement of this question is a bit confusing. So I just thought I should do this question with you, right? So let's go to the requirement. Let's see what we have the requirement. The requirement is quite simple. The examiner is asking you to respond to the CEO of the company request to work for the following areas. The first one is the budget information, that is for 14 marks, right? And the second one is division performance, that is for 6 marks, and 5 marks are here for analysis and evaluation, skepticism, and commercial equipment. I always believe that whenever you start with any question, don't worry about the professional mark. Try to attempt the question in all logical manners as you can, because if you are doing question well, that means you are ultimately dealing with the professional marks, right? Because initially, what happened is when students initially start APM paper, when professional marks were not so high. I mean, initially they were just 4 professional marks. Students tend to write answers in a very abrupt manner. So examiners are trying to prevent that. So let's just start with this company's information. Let's see what we can do here. This question is from December 2023 attempt, right? So let's see what we can do here. Rural Rod Cleaning Company is a business operating primarily in Finland, which provides cleaning services. So the company is providing cleaning services for other business. The business is owned partly by the family and partly by the venture capital firms, right, who helped the Rod family to buy out the business a number of years ago. Both the family and the venture capital expect to see regular returns from the business. Now, this can be an important statement because the company is expecting a good profit, a reasonable profit, a decent profit from the company. The company has 3 operating divisions. The first one is office cleaning, which provides general cleaning services for organizations that outsource this function, right? So this is a general cleaning service. It operates in highly competitive and consequently price-sensitive market, and Office aims to be the cost leader. Right? So this is the basic structure of the first division. The second one is industrial site cleaning, which provides a more technical service to business that handle dangerous materials. Right? Industrial has built a strong reputation for handling these situations where there are many safety regulations and need for specialist equipment and technical knowledge. Therefore, industrial has differentiated itself from its competition and enjoys strong profit margin. So the introduction is quite important here. The first one is a general product. The second one is a specialized service. And how they are specializing, they are saying that the industrial has built a strong reputation for handling these situations. This situation, how to handle the dangerous material, right? And the company is having many safety regulations. The company is dealing with safety regulations, and they know how to uh, how, they know the specialist equipment which is required. They do have that. They have the technical knowledge. They have the technical skills, and the company has differentiated itself from competition and enjoys strong profit margins. Right. Profit margin is important because the company is expecting returns from the business. So in that perspective, it is important. The first part, the question says that price sensitive market, and the company aims to be the cost leader, probably because we are operating in the price sensitive market. And sorry, and price sensitive market means that company uh, cannot lose its market share, cannot increase the prices of the product. So in that case, company has to manage the profitability by reducing the cost, and that's basically what they are doing. Right? Specialist waste disposal. Specialist waste disposal. This is the third business which has grown out of the need in the industrial division to provide clients with a solution to a solution to the problems of disposing of contaminated equipment material that can no longer be cleaned and put back into use. Therefore, similar to industrial, disposal has differentiated itself from competition. Disposal is now focused on growth by expanding its operation into other countries. So disposal is actually on the growth phase, and that is also connected with the regular return, because if you are expanding, if you are going to another country, probably you are seeing a good market there. That's why you are going there. So these are three divisions. So two are specialized, and one is more generalized. Right now, what is the budget information? The CEO. The next one is the budgeted information. All right. The CEO of the company has recently completed a short postgraduate business qualification where she heard about different corporate strategies and management styles. Right? She had already heard about it. The CEO wants to discuss these ideas with the company's board in relation to the use of budget information at the company, and has broken down your work into two parts. The first part of the work is about these business ideas generally, right? The CEO would like a brief outline of, let me try to highlight it with a different color. Okay. The CEO would like a brief outline of the company's style of using budgeted information, which is budget constrained, profit conscious, and non-accounting, in evaluating division managers' performance. Right? This is the first task you have to do. And how these fit to Porter's strategies, which is differentiation and cost leadership given for the division. Right? So this is now what you have to do. Try to understand what you have to do, right? The first thing which you have to do is to the first thing which you have to do is to brief outline, brief outline of these style of budget style, right? In evaluating division managers' performance, in evaluating division manager performance, right? And how these fit to the border strategy, and how these fits with differentiation and cost leadership, right? And the second part of this work is to focus on. Now, what is the second part of the work? The second part of the work is to focus on specific situation. Now you have to deal with some specific situation at the company where the current strategic control method is to evaluate divisional managers' performance solely on their ability to achieve their budgets on a quarterly basis, right? So this is basically how they're evaluating the performance. The CEO requires you to evaluate this current approach to the use of budget information as broad and to sorry. Let me try to highlight again. Evaluate this current approach. Which current approach? This one. And evaluate divisional manager performance solely on their ability to achieve their budget on a quarterly basis. This is the current approach, right? To use budget information at the company and to give justified recommendation for what you believe is best approach to the use of budget information at each of the divisions, right? So in second part, what you have to do, try to dissect it. Let's try to understand that. You are supposed to evaluate divisional performance managers, evaluate divisional manager performance solely on their ability to achieve their budget on quarterly basis. Right? Sorry. This is the requirement. Evaluate this current approach to the use of budget information at the company. So they want you to evaluate uh, current approach to the use of budget information. And what is the current approach? Current approach is to evaluate performance of division managers based on their ability to achieve quarterly targets, right? And then what you have to do, you have to, if you think that this is not good for a certain division, you have to provide some recommendation for what you believe is the best approach for the budget at each of the divisions. So you also have to come up with some recommendations if you think that something is not appropriate. Right? So this is basically what you have to do, right? And let's see what is the requirement. Requirement is of 14 marks, right? So 14 marks requirement means what you have to do in 14 marks. Let's try to understand. These are two parts which you have to cover for 14 marks. So let's try to understand how many marks are allocated for each of these parts. The first part is to briefly outline three styles, right? Three styles, their manager evaluation, and how they are connected with the strategy, right? So since there are three styles, and let's assume that we have to do three things. The first thing is to give a brief introduction of the style of the situation. Second one is First one is the brief introduction. Second one is evaluation and divisional manager performance, and the third one is connection, right? So let's suppose we have to do these three things. That means three tasks multiplied by three styles. That means approximately 9 marks are there for the first part. For the second part, they can be 5 marks, right? Or you can say 9 marks plus 1 mark. You can go for 10 marks for the first one and 4 marks for the second one. But 1 mark can go either. The second part of the work is to focus on a specific situation at the company where the current strategic control method is to, okay, fine. So the first part, let's assume that this is for 5 marks. So let's say 2 to 3 marks are required for the evaluation of current method of achieving the budget, and probably 2 to 3 marks for the recommendation depending on the quantity of recommendation. I mean, you are making 2 recommendations, 3 recommendations, what type of kind of recommendations you are making, right? So this is basically how we have to start with the planning of the question, how much we need to write. Okay, so this is basically the overall planning of the question. Now let's start answering the question, right? The first part was that the first requirement was the basic introduction of what these three styles are, right? So what are these three styles? The first one is budget conscious, sorry, budget constraints. The second one is profit conscious, and the third one is non-account. Yeah, right. So let's start with the definition. What is the budget constraint? Budget constraint means that you are mainly focusing on the financial issues. You are mainly focusing on short-term financial performance like ROCE, maybe ROI, maybe VP, maybe operating profit percentage. So mostly it's concerned with the financial performance, right? Mostly it's concerned with financial performance, and it is focused on a short-term period, right? So this is basically what you can write in the introduction part. Like budget constraint approach, generally consider in budget constraint approach, generally managers are required to achieve a specific budgetary targets, mainly financial budgetary targets, based on a single accounting period, typically for a year, right? So, and what is the problem with that approach? The problem with that approach is Now, how managers are evaluated? Managers are evaluated on the achievement of the short term. You can ignore the word short term, achievement of the financial target, which are generally the short term. Right. Now, what is the problem with this evaluation? Why? I mean, they are asking you to mm, in evaluating division manager performance and how. Okay, fine. So, briefly outline the style of in evaluating division manager performance. So, what happened here is that in this case, if division manager is focusing on a long term perspective or is trying to spend more money on areas like advertisement, like marketing, like employee training, which will generate a longer term profit. Managers are not encouraged to do so because the company is not seeing the long term perspective. The company is mostly concerned with the short term perspective, right? So in this case, employees will not be concerned. I mean, they will be deprived from benefits in case they miss the short term targets, right? And what is the third thing which we have to address? Whether this is cost leadership or differentiation, right? So generally these types of things are can be associated with cost leadership because in these cases we are typically focusing on the cost side of the business. That I mean profit side of the business. That means we are focusing on the cost side. We are not profit. We are not focusing on the differential side, right? And if you see this, because we are supposed to understand it this in general, so we are just writing in general. And if you see this a part of the question, which one is actually suiting with budget constraint side? Because these two are specialized business. These two are supposed to be. We have to maybe we have to spend a lot of money on employee training, on the development of program because we are dealing with a specialized industry and the profit margin of and in this part companies dealing with the cost leadership. So probably office is something where this situation actually deals with, right? I mean, sorry, office division is generally, this is connected with uh, sorry, cost leadership, not differentiation, because in differentiation you have to spend money. So cost leadership where cost needs to be controlled in order to get the benefits, right? Like for example, as like in office division. What was this called? What they are calling it? Office site also? Office cleaning, right? So what we did is we tried to answer each and every part of the question, like what what do you mean by this approach? How this is connected with employee evaluation and how it is dealing with cost leadership and probably differentiation of cost leadership, right? Let's see how we can write this answer, right? This is the suggested answer which I just have written. I hope. Uh, okay. So, okay. So this is the first part of the question, right? So budget. So I just started with hopeful style and their connection with the strategies. This heading will help the examiner to understand what you are actually trying to do, right? So in this management style, division targets are primarily financial centered around budget and short-term goals generally for a single financial year. So this is the explanation which will earn you 1 mark. because you have generally explained what you mean by this concept. This approach encourages a strong emphasis on cost control, often at the expense of potential long-term investment. Right? Employees may find themselves unrewarded for actions that require financial outlay potential, leading them to overlook the opportunities for growth. This is an impact basically the evaluation of employee part, that how employees are generally, I mean, what is the how it is connected with employee evaluation. So this is basically the employee evaluation, that employees may find themselves unrewarded for actions that require financial outlay, potentially leading them to overlook to over the potentially leading them to overlook opportunities for the growth. Or you may write in it in a different manner, but this is basically how we are dealing with it. They may not get the opportunity, they may not get growth chances, they may lose their bonuses just because of the reason that they missed this target. This management style aligns with cost leadership strategy, right? We have connected it with the strategy. It is particularly evident in environments like office, where the primary objective is to establish the lowest cost supply chain. Right? So this will result in 1 mark. So instead of 3 marks, we have written for up to 4 marks. We have written 4 marks, so 4 points. So ideally, we should get 3 marks. So that's basically how we are supposed to write this answer. Okay. What is the second part? Second one is the budget conscious. Sorry. The second one is profit conscious. Right. So in profit conscious, what you are supposed to do in profit conscious approach, the company is supposed to take the management is concerned with the activities which will generate a long term profit rather than the short term profit. Right. So they are generally concerned with the generation of um, strategies that will generate long term profits. It will generate long term profits, right? And how achievement are there? Generally, employees are evaluated on such basis. I mean, if any any profit is there which is going to lead a long term, any action which is going to lead generate long term profit is generally encouraged, right? For example, generally we use economic value added for this purposes, but we are not supposed to recommend anything here. So generally, managers are evaluated on the basis of strategies which will generate long-term profit. Right? And what else we have to do? We have to connect it with either it's a cost leadership or differentiation style. So if you are going for a long-term profit, what do you think? Is it a profit conscious approach? Sorry, is it a you have to deal with differentiation or cost leadership. What do you think? Long-term profit generation, differential or cost leadership? Apparently, it's differential approach, because in this case, if you want to excel for a longer term, you have to differentiate yourself from the market, right? So it's a differentiated approach. And in this case, which one is actually following it? Mm, is this industrial side, or is this disposal, or is this office? It is actually both industrial and specialist. Most probably, I mean, this is the primarily this is the one. This is also doing the same thing, but it's focusing mostly on growth side, right? So industrial and disposal both are following this profit conscious approach. Right? So let's see how we can write this answer. Profit conscious management style assess managerial performance based on the ability to generate long term profit, right? For the business, this is the explanation. It will generate 1 mark. This approach can work for both making product different from the other or making it at a lower cost, right? However, the outcome may vary. Differentiation strategies, as seen in the industrial and disposable sector, tends to yield low return. I mean, low, high volume margin results, which will help the company to increase the profitability for the longer term. That means we are going for low low sales with high profitability, right? On the other hand, cost leadership typically results in high volume, low margin outcomes. This is something which is mainly the objective of the sector. Therefore, the drivers of the long-term performance measure for each of these strategies are going to be very different for performance measurement. Right? Performance measurement is actually related to the employee part. You can further elaborate it, like, for example, you can write it, therefore, the drivers for the performance measurement of managers for each of these strategies can be different. I mean, few people will focus on cost leadership, like what the Chinese products are doing. They are focusing on cost leadership in order to remain competitive in the market, right? And it can be for quality, like Apple is doing. They are providing a quality product. Samsung is providing. I'm not saying quality in the sense they they portray themselves as an brand conscious and something bigger in a bigger elite size. So generally they are doing this, right? So these are two approaches depending what the company is operating. But if the company is operating it on the basis of cost leadership, it would be different. Profit conscious, differentiated, it would be different. Right? Now, what is the third one? The third one is saying, mm, yeah, this one. The third one is the third one is mm, non-accounting. What do you mean by non-accounting approach? Non-accounting approach means that we are actually focusing mainly on non-financial indicators, right? With little focus on financial part, right? We generally focus on non-accounting. Managers are evaluated now. How managers are evaluated? Managers are evaluated on the achievement of non-financial indicators, right? And in this case, it will be difficult for. Non-financial indicators. Uh, there can be some limitation in that because sometimes you are having cultural change, cultural shift. Somehow you are not in a position to control the non-financial part. But in this case, if you target a budgeted approach that look, we have to achieve a certain percentage, maybe because of change in environment, change in culture, you are not in a position to achieve that. But generally, managers are evaluated on this basis, right? Now, in this situation, what is the third part? Third is you have to go for cost leadership or differentiation. So in non-accounting, it's mostly in differentiated style of budgeting. And differentiated style of budgeting means which division? Differentiated style of budgeting means that this is actually related to which one? You can say it can be related to industrial, it can be related to waste disposable, whatever you want. Both are connected with it. Right? Sorry. So in non-accounting part, because both are specialized, so non-accounting can be connected with uh, industrial and disposal. Right? Um, if you want to connect that profitability part, but I think profitability part should not be connected with this one. Yeah, this is fine. So how we can write the answer? Let's move to suggested answer. Non-accounting again. The first part is related to the explanation. Second part is related to how the performance is evaluated, right? Uh, just what kind of strategy you are following, and then additionally it aligns when strategies where growth of the business activities is prioritized, such as disposal. Now, what is the third one? Sorry. So that's basically how we can deal with all these things, right? Now let's move to the second one, second requirement. Second requirement was what? Second requirement is to focus on specific situation at the company where the current strategic control method is to evaluate divisional manager performance solely on their ability to achieve their budget on a quarterly basis. The CEO require you to evaluate this current approach to the use of budget information at broad to give justified recommendation on what you believe is best approach for the use to budget information at each of the divisions, right? Now, first of all, we need to understand whether this approach is suitable or not. So, how we are evaluating division manager performance solely on their ability to achieve their budget on a quarterly basis, whether the budget is achieved or not. Now, to try to understand these three points, these three markets, right, and try to evaluate whether asking manager to achieve a certain uh, percentage or certain target on a quarterly basis is suitable for all or not. See, it's suitable for office. Why? Because it has a general market, it is selling to all the companies, it is generalized, it's more generalized, it's a competitive market, you have a lot of customers. So definitely you can have a specific sort of profit approach here. Right? So asking your manager to achieve budget on a quarterly basis makes sense in office division because that is a profit conscious approach, right? Uh, you have to budget constraint approach. You have to be very strict with the cost control. So you need to continuously monitor whether the cost is on an increasing pattern, is maintaining, or you are reducing your cost on a regular basis. That's extremely important. Right? What about the industrial side and specialist waste disposal? Is the same approach, do you think, is valid? No. Why? Because both of these divisions are specialized divisions. Specialized division in the sense that industrial site cleaning is something where not everyone will order, but there are few industries which are having this, which are using this dangerous material will order. So it doesn't have a very generalized market. It has a specific market. You cannot focus on increasing the profits on a specific major. It depends upon limited customers which you have, right? So in this situation, you can generally move towards a profit conscious approach where the company wants to have a long term profit to maintain long term profit. So you should focus on having a longer term profit rather than asking your manager to achieve short term quarterly basis financial performances, right? What about this special disposable? Do you think this is also something which where you ask your manager to achieve the performance within a year, within a quarter? No, obviously not, because this is something which is more almost on the which is actually dealing with the similar situation that those companies which are having disposal issues are coming to the company, are coming forward, and they are asking the company to do something for them. So again, it depends on the customer base, how much customer base it has. But the good part is that disposal is now focused on growth by expanding its operation to the other countries. So if you are expanding into the other countries, maybe you should have a non-accounting approach. Non-accounting approach in the sense because Different countries have different structure, different countries have different culture. Culture is not a relevant thing here. I mean, different countries have different law or law structure, different strictness of laws related to environment, related to climate, related to how the companies are disposing of, how much company, how much relaxation is given. So non-accounting approach will be a better suited approach for specialist waste disposal companies, right? Why? Because regulations can differ in different countries, right? So that's something which we can write. So if you are supposed to write for 6 months, let's suppose we are targeting for 6 months, so you have to write for office, right? And you have to write why this quarterly targeting approach is suitable. Why? Because this is a cost controlling method. Cost leader, we are dealing with cost leadership. So we have to continuously look into cost trend. So this is a 2 mark answer. Because the first we have identified that look, office is something which can be dealt with it. This approach is suitable to the office. Why? Because of this reason. Right. The second one is industrial disposal. Yeah, industrial side. Industrial side. The first we said that no, it is not suitable. Why? Why? Because it has limited market. So main target should be to achieve, and it's a specific target. Sorry, just a second. It's a specific market. Just a second. It's a specific market where it depends how much order is placed, how when customer needs the company for cleaning side, right? But the most important thing is whenever they need anything to clean their industrial site, what should be the first company which should come into their mind, right? So developing long term, what you can say, long term um, relationship with customer will generate profit, right? So in this case, profit conscious approach is more suitable. Right? Why? Because it focuses on the generation of long term profit, right? Then the third one is um, disposal. So in a similar manner, we will write that why this approach is not suitable for disposal and why we believe that more suitable option is this is not suitable because again it's a specific same reason go with both the option that this is a specific market, right? However, if you want to recommend, because recommendation was also the part, this part, where it is, yeah, recommendation, right? So if you want to write for recommendation in this part, we were here. So if you want to recommend, recommendation will be to go for non-accounting. Why non-accounting? Because it is focusing on growth in different countries and mm, there can be different laws and regulations which the reward company has to deal with. Therefore, non-accounting approach will be more suitable. How much different type of KPIs should be used by different for the different customers or for the different regions probably. So that will help the company to monitor their performance, right? So 2 marks, 2 marks, 2 marks, approximately 6 marks part. So 6 marks for this one and 9 marks for the previous one. That will ultimately lead to around 15 marks. Which ideally, we have to gain 40 marks. So that's basically how we can generate these strategies. Now, what is in the next part? The next requirement is division performance. Finally, the CEO wants you to evaluate again. Let me try to read it properly. Wants you to evaluate. What you have to do, you have to evaluate. Sorry, sorry. Evaluate the three division performance using the two division performance indicators, return on investment and residual income. You have been given an extract from the company's management accounts in appendix number 1. As part of this evaluation, she wants you to comment on your assumption in performing the calculations and drawing your conclusions, right? So, and how many marks are associated? 6 marks are associated. So, in 6 marks, you have to calculate and you also have to comment, right? And commenting on the performance and assumptions in performing these calculations and drawing your conclusions that what you believe is more relevant, right? So in appendix number 1, this is the situation which we have in appendix number 1, right? So there are three divisions: revenue division, office division, industrial division, and disposal division. Revenues are given, costs are given, divisional operating costs, allocated head office management costs, profit before interest and tax, profit before tax, profit after tax, capital employed, and all these things are given. Now, what is in the notes are important. A number of years ago, before disposal was established as a separate division, the CFO estimated industrial notional cost as 9%. So in industrial, we have the required return of 9% cost of capital. The weighted average cost of capital for the overall company is 11%. So this one has an a weighted average cost of capital of 11% for the first two divisions. For disposal, it's just 9%. The ROI for similar entities compared to ROD is around 50%, right? So here you have to make an analysis. Now I'm switching the screen because I am unable to do Excel calculation here. So I am switching to my laptop where we can share the screen and entire screen, and then we'll start with Excel. Let's start with Excel. Okay. 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 So we are in appendix number 1. And these are something which are given in appendix number 1. And there are three divisions, right? The first division is industrial, office, sorry. So the first one is office, the second one is industrial, and the third one is disposal, right? So what is the profit which we have to consider here? Profit is, there are three profits: profit before interest and tax, profit after tax, and profit before tax. So generally we consider profit before interest and tax. And tax, which is called operating profit in some cases, right? So profit before interest tax is 24 for office, 54 for industrial, and 19 for disposal, right? And then what is the capital employed? Capital employed is 157 for the first one, 320 for the second one, and 167 for the third one, right? So return on capital employed or return on investment, what they are writing? Return on investment, yeah. Return on investment will be 24 divided by 157 and similar for all. Right? Let me try to make it in a percentage and this one. So this is the return on investment for the company, right? But there is a problem with return on investment. What the problem is that they are using profit before interest and tax, which is fine. But the profit figure include allocated head office management fee. Allocated means what? Allocated means that this is something um, which is a fixed cost and which we just simply distribute it to the company, right? And so this means what? This means that this is not directly related to these divisions, but it's like a head office cost which the company has distributed to three divisions on certain basis. So what is the problem? Let's suppose if office division discontinue its operation, the same cost will be allocated to industrial and disposal, right? So technically, this ROI is called traceable ROI, which is related to the division. Ideally, it should be controllable return on investment. Controllable return on investment means something which we cannot control should be eliminated from the discussion, right? So which means what? Which means 24 minus, or you can start do it like this, control X, controllable profits. Controllable profits will be 24 minus, no, not 24 minus, 24 plus 21, because 21 has wrongly been deducted from this figure. Ideally, it should not be deducted. Then this will be 54 plus 16, then this will be 19 plus 8, right? Okay. So controllable return on investment will be 45 divided by 157 and same thing for all. Right? And the next one is residual income. What they are using? Divisional performance means they are using ROI and residual income. There are two now. So in appendix number one, we will move towards residual income. Residual income should be, or let's, residual income is simply profit minus imputed interest. So profit is 24 minus imputed interest is 57 times. What is the cost of capital? 11%. It's 6.7. Similar will be done for the next one, right? Let's try to connect it C3, 54 minus C4 into 11, right? Now in the third one, the difference is that we will do the same calculation, but the problem is that in the last division, the cost of capital is not 11%, it's simply 9%, right? So you have to do it with 9%, so it's 3.97. So residual income of all divisions is positive, which makes sense. Now, if you are talking about the assumptions, right? So controllable RI, sorry, controllable RI will be what? Controllable RI will be. I mean, that will be based on controllable profits. Now. So controllable profits minus 157 times 0.11. Right? And in the last case, it will be 0.0. 0. Okay. So if you see this part, the first thing which we have to understand how many comments you will write. You will start with the performance evaluation. So what is the company's performance evaluation? If you see this part, so the overall this part, the company similar entities has a return on investment of 15%, right? So ideally, if you see this part, because this is something which company is actually focusing on, right? So okay, so return on investment of office and industrial more is higher than industry, right? However, uh, disposal is unable to generate 15% profit, right? Now the problem, now the situation, now we have to understand: is this a problem? That's something which is extremely important to understand. Is this really a problem? See, what is the issue? The issue is that disposal division has a very low profit, right? And it has a capital employed of 167, and the company is generating only 11.38%, possibly because of the reason that the industry, that this division is more, uh, requires some, I mean, the clients are low, the performance is low because the clients are low, they are still struggling, they are still trying to manage in the business. They are doing it, they are in an extension project. I mean, they have extension projects, so probably they are spending money there. But the problem with this approach is that we are using controllable, we are not using controllable profit, we are just using the traceable profit. If you see the controllable ROI, still disposal division is also doing really well. You are charging unnecessary 8 million cost to disposal just because of the reason that your administration department is just getting that cost, right? Disposal division has nothing to do with. So if you exclude that cost, still even disposal cost division is performing really well, right? So the first part is analysis of these three ones. The second part is to understand the impact of the assumption of controllable. You have to write the assumption of controllable profits, because in controllable, if you're using controllable profits, all divisions are exceeding the average industry return, right? And you can add one more point, which is that since the company and the manager, not the company manager, since the company was mostly concerned with the regular return from the business, so the business is generating a reasonable return of which is higher than the industry average if you are considering the controllable RI. Controllable RI. Now let's move towards controllable RI. What RI is representing is that whether the company is able to generate profit which is more than its cost of capital. So yes, the company is generating profit which is more than its cost of capital. That means it's still, I mean, after returning all the costs to the investors, still the company is managing some reasonable returns, reasonable profit. It's an absolute positive term, and it is a very good organization. And if you use the controllable part, it's really big, right? So the next part is that all divisions are able to recover their cost of capital and generating more than and adding value to the business by having a positive RI. So ideally, you should write these 3 points, right? It depends how much you are explaining. So this was for 6 requirement, probably 1 mark for ROI calculation, 1 mark for RI calculation because calculations are quite simple. 1 mark for the identification of controllable profits, how you are dealing with that, and then 3 marks for its evaluation. Right? So let's see how we can write this answer, this part of the question, right? Um, okay, so how you can write this? See, first of all, we have identified all these things, right? What is ROI? All divisions are currently showing positive results on RI major, indicating there is strong performance across the board. However, when assessed with ROI major, office and industrial divisions surpassed the sector benchmark of 15%, while disposal falls all of the standards. The conclusion drawn from ROI comparison is based on the sector benchmark, overlooking the distinct business model for the three divisions. Office require less capital compared to the other divisions due to simpler operations, while industrial disposal demand more capital due to their specialization. Given differences, a more tailored benchmark reflects that makes sense, right? Further, while operating common, it is worth considering exclusion of allocated head office charges where assessing divisional managers on performance of these charges. So this is important that you use controllable ROI. And this is one thing which we probably missed is that ROCFO required 9% ROCE. We need to, because they were asking for the assumption. So the assumption which I think we missed this part here, we didn't do this properly. They have calculated this some years back, so 9% needs to be evaluated whether this 9% is fine or not because it's a risky industry. So maybe the cost of capital is higher as compared with 9%, which is not here because that they have calculated for the whole industry. So that's basically how you need to answer whenever you are supposed to do. So in this whole question, I just try to explain you how to write with respect to the marks. The first thing which you need to do whenever any question comes to you is to understand the marking scheme. Let's move towards the marking scheme. See, ROI calculation 1 mark, RI calculation 1 mark, comments are up to 5 marks, right? Then again for the hop word style 2 marks for describing the style, 1 mark for the appropriate strategy. So it's always 1 mark, 2 mark, 1 mark, 2 mark for the points, right? There was a student who asked me that because I generally ask the students to write a complete statement. Whatever you are writing, you have to complete the answer. As we discussed in the last class, that you are not supposed to you are not supposed to write it in a manner that examiner knows everything. You are writing to the CFO, you have to complete the point. So there was a student who asked me if how can we write in a simpler manner and also complete the whole scenario, I mean, complete the whole point. So I said you can write a simple point in 5 lines and you can write a simple point in 3 lines also. It all depends what strategy you are using to write to describe it, right? And that's basically what matters in exam, how you are describing. If you're describing it too much, I mean, you are using lengthy sentences to describe a simple statement, simple thing, then that will cause I mean that in that case you will suffer a time problem. But if you're writing same thing in 2 lines with everything, complete point in 2 lines, it will save your time. Right. So now, what is the examiner comment? Lack of okay, fine. Hmm, part A. Okay. Um, one of the main areas where candidates could have enhanced their responses. This part. One of the main areas where candidates could have enhanced their responses was in explaining how for different approaches and justifying the strategic approach that it might best fit for, right? So justification is again extremely important. For example, candidates may indicate that budget constraint style relates to how well the company keeps its costs down. It would suit a cost leader. Whereas response to this nature worthy of merit, it does not fully describe the characteristics of the budget. So the point is fine, but you are not explaining it well. Whereas response of this, okay, fine. That target all financial and short-term and explanation of this nature which address in full the characters of budget constraint can be easier related to a cost leadership by highlighting that a low-cost supplier such as office division would be keen to ensure that all financial targets were achieved, that short-term targets were met, and that all costs were fully justified. The lack of justification in overall evaluation could also be seen in the second part of the requirement when candidates were asked to justify an approach or use of budgeted information in each part. Right? Candidates may have written non-accounting may be of use to disposal division as it is new. So this is a this is an extremely incomplete explanation. How you can write the same point? A non-accounting style has an emphasis on quality and operational factors and may suit an organization or a division that is seeking to develop itself in a new marketplace. Disposal division is seeking to expand overseas into new markets and non-accounting approach may help it, at least initially to establish itself in marketplace. Given the venture capitalist desire for regular returns, it might be best if this approach was mixed with a profit conscious approach. Two, as this will help to ensure that disposal division focuses on appropriate major targets and financial return within a distinct time frame. So this is a complete picture that you are telling that okay fine this is important, but you can also consider this part because the returns are important. So that's how you should write your answer. You should not write your answer comprehensive. I mean, it's important for you to understand to explain everything in a in a single paragraph or a single line. Right? I mean, this is too wordy. You can reduce the number of words. You can reduce this length to 2 or 3 lines. That is perfectly acceptable, right? So writing the complete answer is extremely important, and just writing one liner, two liners will cost you a lot, right? So at this point, I just want to end this second day webinar. Since exams are approaching and your exams are quite near, I mean you are just left with 20 days. I don't count December for uh, for the preparation. So in 20 days, maximum what you need to try to focus on maximum what you have to do. My advice to all the students is that try to start attempting the last 5 years paper, right? Try to write it. And if any tutor or any of someone is available at your end, try to ask them to read your paper, tutor especially, read your paper and give a feedback to you on what you have written. And this will definitely improve your chances to pass the paper, right? Try to uh, try to make a timetable, try to stick to that timetable, try to revise everything at the end of the syllabus. I have provided all APM recap videos on my YouTube channel. You can visit that as also. So try to focus on the application of knowledge. I mean, the three key takeaways are from this webinar is that the first thing which you need to do is to try to build a habit for justification, for justifying your answer. Number one. Number two is that try to com- write complete sentences. Right. The third one is that try to write the answer within a specific time period. It will help you in writing the answer in your exam also. Okay. So that's the end of webinar, second day of webinar for APM. Thank you. Take care. Allah Hafiz.